Welcome back to Lost Legacies.
A Hidden City Book Company production.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
Welcome to the first official Lost Legacies video episode. I mean, we're still podcast, but this is the first time we're actually using our videos. So if you're wondering why our camera's quality isn't the best, that's why. Also why we have these giant freaking mics in front of our faces, because we don't typically do video. But yeah, I typically this show is about Sam and I talking about the TV show Lost, the 20-year-old show. And we're kind of between seasons right now, and it's Halloween time, so we're jumping into the spooky season, and we decided we're going to talk about some movies. But we are trying to, I'd say, grow, but we'd actually have to have a YouTube presence first in order to grow it. So
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
like our first official YouTube video. So thank you for being here. I guess this is a good time to do an intro because you may not be interested in Lost whatsoever or have listened to any of our podcasts. So typically, like I said, what we do is watch Lost, and then between seasons, or if we find something special, we'll do an episode on like a movie or a TV show or something that we feel is either underrated or misunderstood. You know? I think this movie definitely falls under the underrated category.
Yeah.
So, first off, let's just lay it out. The movie we're talking about is 2013's Coherence, directed by, I believe this is how you pronounce it, James Ward Burkett. I hope I'm saying that right. But before we get into the talk, we got little things to discuss about this film before and turn off our phones before we get into it. Sorry about that. We typically like to talk about stuff that either neither of us have seen or only one of us has seen. This is different. We kind of have a little history with this movie. So I guess let's just try and sum it up as quickly as we can so we can actually discuss what's in the movie. I found this movie on a list on Instagram, I want to say like 2017, 2018.
Okay.
It was a while back, and it was the list was like the top 10 underrated sci-fi movies, and this was like number 3. So I checked it out. I fell in love. At that same time, Sam had a podcast with some friends, and Hunter and Mickey. Mickey is someone who joins us on the podcast every now and then. And basically they would talk about movies and they'd invite guests, and they invited me for an episode. And I brought this movie. I brought Coherence because I thought we would really just have a good time just discussing it. And just for a side note, it didn't go how I planned. Mickey was like hate texting me through the whole movie. I didn't hear anything from Hunter, and when I asked Sam what he thought, he was like, "It was okay. It was okay." I was like, "Damn it!" But then, because of reasons, we weren't able to record. So when we actually did the episode, we ended up picking a completely different film, and we never got to discuss it with the guys. And now, years have gone by. We have other podcasts, and a couple months ago, we were between seasons of Lost, and it's like, hey, let's bring it to Lost Legacies. Let's talk about it. And we did, and I thought we had a very good episode. And then I get to edit it, and I realized that the audio was just absolute garbage.
Yeah.
We were in the process of like changing our setup, and it's just, oh, man, I was so heartbroken. It's different if it's a movie that like we don't like, because I would just scrap it. I would just quit. But like I really like this movie and I really wanted to talk about it. So it's kind of our cursed episode. This is our third attempt at making a podcast episode about Coherence. I hope it's coherent. If you're listening or watching this video, then I guess it is. because it's already
Yeah.
online. So, man, here we go. Talk about 2013 Coherence, directed by James Ward Burkett. I'm trying to see how can I sum it up in the simplest way possible, Sam. The film revolves around a mostly cordial dinner involving 8 mostly friends, but it soon devolves into a night of absolute chaos when they realize, oh yeah, spoiler alert. If you haven't watched the movie, get the heck out of here. What are you doing?
Oh, yeah. Go.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The night erupts into absolute chaos when the dinner party realizes there's other versions of themselves right down the street at another house.
Mm-hmm.
That's the entire. That's the premise. I won't say that's the story, but that's the plot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, this was one. I just explained why I wanted to talk about this episode, but also, it's not a horror movie. I don't like scary movies, so I felt like this was a big buffer for us to get into the Halloween season.
Uh-huh.
Because it's not
Uh-huh.
scary, but it's very much like uh, I just call it Twilight Zone. Like it's a genre. It's the Twilight Zone genre. It's just very like mind blowing, mind twisty kind of storytelling.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
really makes you think when it's over. Like you're just constantly thinking about it over and over again. That's the genre.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that whole
That's
thing I just said. That's the genre,
Man,
Sam.
that's really hard to just, put into like
It's hard
a
to look
small
up on
little
Letterbox.
tag. Yeah,
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 yeah.
exactly.
Um, so okay, dude, this is what your third time watching it, and I think this was like my seventh or eighth time.
Yeah.
So I want to know what your thoughts are, how you feel about it, but I'm really curious how your thoughts are on this film after we just watched it like 2 or 3 months ago.
Hmm.
Like how was your experience any different this time around?
Uh well, yeah, yeah. Experience was different because we were watching this right before we were watching this and planning on recording the episode before I was going to take a big trip this year. So that's why, we had to I was doing a whole bunch of stuff. So I was kind of just not in like I guess I was just distracted. I was in like a distracted kind of headspace.
Yeah.
Um uh
The last
so
episode before a vacation slash work trip type thing.
yeah.
It's nothing on the film itself. It's just like it was a tough week. I get it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, watching it that last time, I was like, okay, like I was picking up more of the vibe. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, like I'm kind of trying to meet it on its level. I was a little distracted because I was trying to like pack at the same time.
Hmm.
Trying to kill two birds with one stone, and then, just it's the thing with me. I can't have things on. I can't have like a show or a movie. I can't even really have a YouTube video going if I'm trying to do stuff around my apartment because I will get caught up in it and I'll just sit.
Right. Yeah.
So it's very rare if there's actually a movie where I can do that. And I have encountered some of them very recently and I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting. Okay, cool. Uh this movie beat the ADHD." Um
Oh wow, there you go.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what they should put on the posters.
Put that on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember the very first time I watched it, I didn't really like it. Um, I can't really tell you why anymore.
Yeah.
I think because I just didn't know what to expect, and
Hmm.
I guess I wanted it to go crazier, or in my head I was like, oh, this should be crazier, like this should be more, some more stuff going on, blah blah blah. And then I guess as time went on, and seeing it,
Hmm.
the last time, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, like this is good. I can definitely see why it is uh I guess we can say that this is sort of a cult classic,
I
or
think so
maybe,
for sure by this point. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I think also part of it too was like you watched it for your show, like
Hmm.
an assignment. I was the guest. I brought this movie to you guys, so that's how y'all approached it. And I think you guys know, our listeners know. Like, look, I'm not a film bro. I'm not discussing film on Twitter. I'm just not that guy.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, Indiana Jones is on my like letterbox top four. It's not going to be a foreign film. I'm sorry, that's just not me.
That's okay.
And I just bring that up because it's like I typically don't really watch like indie films or low budget films, not as a point or anything. It's just like you know I'm I'm the franchise guy, or certain actors. I'll follow actors. There was absolutely nothing that would have brought me to this film if it weren't for that list I found, because I love sci-fi. So when
Hmm.
it said underrated sci-fi, I'm like, I'll check it out. Cool. And as
Hmm.
as an actor who has acting experience, and I'm fascinated by the concepts of like single location stories, and I think that list said something like a dinner party goes wrong or something. It was kind of similar to my intro for it. And I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, okay. And I had just read a book at the time that took place entirely at a dinner table. So that
Ooh.
kind of just like it, just all these little sparks were going off in my head. I'm like, this sounds really cool. I'll give this movie a try. And so I think that's part of it, that you guys didn't know what to expect because, uh, for example, the movie we talked about instead of this one was
Hmm.
Point Break. And it's like,
Oh,
of course,
yeah,
Matt would take Point Break to a podcast to talk about. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
that's like more my style. So this one really came out of left field for me and for me to present it.
Hmm.
So I don't blame you on that part, that side of it.
Yeah.
I I think uh, this is so it's always weird because when we talk about this stuff, we usually talk about like the plot and story and then behind the scenes later. This is one like you really have to talk about both at the same time, because I also didn't tell y'all anything about the movie,
Hmm.
and I think that's how you should go into it.
Hmm.
But knowing how it was made, I think makes the experience so much more brilliant and fun. So, listeners slash watchers, I'm assuming you've watched the movie at this point because you're still here. This film was made without a script, super bare minimum crew.
Hmm.
It was essentially all improv, and the director and writers, they would kind of give the actors either note cards or email every day, just say like, hey, this is your goal for tonight, or for this scene, this is your goal. And
Hmm.
then they would just kind of go through it. And in the behind the scenes and stuff, they were saying how they were like, their scenes were like 40 plus minutes because you have eight actors improving, and each
Hmm.
of them has their motivations and their goals. So I wish I could go to the editing room while they were editing this, just to
Yeah.
see how they cut it down, how they actually make sense of it. Because I couldn't understand how the filmmakers knew what was going on. You had to. They worked on the story for like a year and a half, but then to
Hmm.
bring in the wild cards of the actors, and then on top of that, just to going back and forth, like I don't know, man. Like it's like a big soup, but you're trying to make it into like a Subway sandwich. Like I don't know how they did this. This movie just
Yeah.
defies like everything we were taught in film school.
Hmm.
But I mean, that's also kind of why I didn't stay in film school. I was like, no, I'm out of
Oh,
here. You know,
whoa, the
uh,
shade.
no shade. It's just it's not for everyone. But yeah, like I don't know, man. Um, I think that's a big part of it as well,
Hmm.
because I thought I had told you that later, but I remember specifically before this second watch of our failed episode, I mentioned that, and like you had no idea. You're like, wait a second, there's no script. We're like, yeah.
Mm. Hmm.
And when I said Mickey was like hate texting me when he watched it, however many years ago, that's
Hmm.
essentially what he was saying. He was just like, why are there so many cuts to black? There's so many cuts to black. It's so dark. And he's like, people don't talk like this in real life. It's just all exposition. And now, oh, and funny enough, when we were driving back from Dallas a couple months ago with Mickey, I don't remember why, but I name dropped Coherence, and he's
Hmm.
like, "Oh, you like Coherence? Yeah." He's like, "Oh, awesome." I'm like, wait, what? Now you like it?
That has happened several times. Watchers and listeners, for those of you who don't know, Mickey is my best friend. We wrote a comic together. I help him make movies. And yeah, we were in Dallas for a Comic Con, and we drove up and back, and yeah, that's just the thing that I've noticed a couple of times with like certain movies. Like I'll mention something and he's like, dude, I love that movie, and I'm like, I have a specific memory of you telling me how much you despise this movie, and then he's like, what? No, that's not true. And I'm like, what? Yes, it
Sam,
is.
Sam, here's the thing. What if that's not your Mickey?
Oh my
I
god.
was thinking about this today. So this entire movie is about different realities kind of brushing up together against each
Hmm.
other, and then we assume splitting off at the end.
Hmm.
I distinctly remember having a conversation that after you watched the Miami Vice movie, and now you say you have never seen that movie.
I've never seen that.
I don't know what happened. Like either I left my reality or you left yours. Like I don't know.
Wow.
Um,
It would explain a lot.
so I wonder if like we're not going to get answers because there are no answers in this movie, which is so frustrating, but also makes it
Hmm.
such like it makes it such like this little magical gem of a movie. You know, I
Hmm.
don't want the answers, but I was thinking, I'm like, well, maybe there's like it's not just random. It's not just random realities. So like earlier in the night, if you happen to slip into a different house, the changes are very subtle.
Mm.
You know, and I think back to those early scenes. Sorry, those early scenes where Lori claims that she loves Roswell, but she has no recollection of Mike being in it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I always thought I was like, oh, that's weird, but like the jumps hadn't started yet. You know,
Hmm.
there were cuts to black before, so maybe actually it did start. Maybe things were already changing before the movie even began. You know,
Ooh,
uh,
that's an interesting detail. Yeah.
because even before Lori shows up, the ladies are trying to explain to Mike who Lori is. Yeah, you remember she's from this and this, and he like has
Hmm.
no idea.
Yeah.
So
Which then
maybe,
also kind of gets brought up during dinner because he misremembers what her job is
yeah, and
and
I think
like
he even
keeps like
calls her
doubling
like
down on it.
Lauren at some point. Like I don't
Yeah.
remember. Um,
Yeah.
so it's like maybe like things were already starting to change, or people were already starting to travel to different houses before they even realized it.
Hmm.
And that seems like a change that like you completely don't remember someone, but other than that everything's the same.
Hmm.
So it's like maybe Mike went to the wrong house on his way home from work or something. Who knows? You know, it's just theorizing, and I don't want to spend too much time on theories, but like it's just kind of this idea. Well, like the longer the night gets, the deeper it gets. So once they actually start seeing other versions of themselves, it's like, well, no, this is a completely different version of you. It's not
Mm.
just not remembering things, or small little changes. Like, no, these are like the big ones. So like the
Hmm.
quote unquote dark version of you, that's who you end up meeting like in the dead of night once you're in the
Mm.
middle of it.
Yeah, I guess I could see that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
back to like what we were talking about, this was like early night. We get mixed up. The Sam we have now never saw the Miami Vice movie. I swear we had that conversation. So one of us switched early in the night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm guessing it was me.
Maybe. I don't know. Could have been me.
Yeah.
There's also the idea of like, it could have been like, what if, man, I could just talk theories forever. I don't want to go on theories.
Kind of sounds like you do though.
Because I was thinking like, well, what if it's not a bad thing, you know? Um, it doesn't have to be good. Well, maybe it is good. Maybe there is like this kind of uh like a, I don't want to say divinity, but something like pure about it. Like you die an extremely horrible death, Final Destination style, and the
Hmm.
universe is like, nah, nah, that ain't right. We're sending
Hmm.
Sam to another one. Let's do it again. You know? So then,
Yeah.
like, me, your brother, I'm still stuck here grieving, but you have no idea. You think
Yeah,
everything's fine, and then you're like, no, dude, I swear I've never watched the Miami Vice movie.
yeah.
Well, yeah, because the Miami Vice Sam died.
Yeah.
He got crushed by
Whoa.
a log on the freeway in like Final Destination 2,
Oh, geez.
you know?
Wow.
But that's
Don't
really getting
traumatize
out there
me.
with like the whole theories
Hmm.
and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
I don't know. Also, no spoilers, but when we watched this, it was right after we finished Dark,
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
the German Netflix original series Dark.
Hmm.
Completely different story about something completely different. But if you loved Coherence, I think you would love the hell out of
Hmm.
Dark. And that's where that idea was kind of brewing in my head. Like, what if there is um, something sacred? You don't want to say sacred. I say sacred, and I think of that's Marvel, right? Like the sacred timeline.
Oh, yeah,
That's a Marvel thing. I was like, I've heard
yeah,
that before. So it's like, oh no, we can't lose Sam. Okay. We're gonna send him to another reality then. You know. Um,
yeah.
yeah. I.
Well, it's interesting because they sort of talk about kind of along the same lines. They kind of talk about it here when M starts to because everybody's like, oh yeah, like we saw ourselves or we saw other people, like we saw a dinner party table set for eight just like this, all this, and everybody kind of starts freaking out. And really quickly a lot of people just start to like turn to violence, like I'm gonna go over them, I'm gonna kill them, before they come and get
Right.
us, stuff like
Yeah.
that. And then M kind of tries to be the mediator and is like, well, what if we just go and like, what if we just talk to each other? What if we just talk to
Yeah.
ourselves? Isn't that kind of the thing? Like the most divine thing you can do is to meet yourself. What if this is that? What if this is that opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
literally meet yourself? And I honestly, I was on board, having
Yeah.
seen this, like three times now. I'm like, yeah, like in a way she's right. Like this is a completely unorthodox situation, and I'm sure that wherever that theory comes from or wherever that belief comes from is mostly just talking about, like the inner work and the inner self,
Mm-hmm.
and finding yourself within. But what if the universe grants you an opportunity to meet yourself without, to meet yourself in person? Like that's like
Yeah.
and then of course the rest of the movie goes on, and you get these little pockets of, like how different is everything or how similar things are.
Yeah.
Um I think this time I was just sort of trying to see like where there were differences in
Mm.
things, like pieces of conversation that I'm like, okay, I know they repeat this line, or like, okay, I know this comes into play later, so like can I clock where the switch is or where the change is or things like that. um and yeah, like I don't know, like there was just something. It was also interesting because this was the first time I've truly felt anxious watching this movie.
Oh, interesting.
Like the yeah, which is such a strange thing, it's like like going in blind completely, kind of just like, oh, let's see what this is, but I didn't feel that anxiety,
Hmm.
and I guess it's kind of the thing is like having to watch this is sort of like an assignment where,
Hmm.
versus sitting here knowing things happen and like let's just go for the ride, let's just see what
Hmm.
happens, and then yeah, like I don't know, like I was just sitting in my anxiety for a little bit, just like, man, this is so like this is so tense, and I think that it helps that everybody at that dinner table in some way or another, like kind of like takes jabs at each other throughout
Yeah,
dinner, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. That was what that it's so well done, like that opening
Hmm.
dinner scene, because it doesn't have to be about the comet. If nothing weird
Yeah.
happens, there's nothing off about that scene. They're just talking about some things that are kind of weird and a little creepy. It's a little off-putting. But so is that whole dinner, because there is a lot of tension at that table. So
Hmm.
if there was no sci-fi element and this was just a relationship drama, like that opening still would fit completely within that film.
Yeah.
But then the fact that it doesn't, it goes off the rails so quick, you're like, oh, okay, this was just setting this up. Um, Also, apologies if you hear the dogs next door. They're usually inside by this time, unless they're not dogs from this universe.
Oh God.
Damn it. I kind of have to agree with you though. The more I watch this film, like I said, I've watched it like 8 times. Like the more anxious I get,
Mm.
which is weird because like I already know what's gonna happen,
Yeah.
but I think I start dreading it more. And I think Mike's storyline is a big part of that,
Mm.
because he really screws himself over and everyone else in the process. So it's like watching the train wreck coming.
Hmm.
But instead of getting desensitized to it, like it's getting worse each time I watch it, I'm like, oh no,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh no.
Also just like I know we're skipping around a lot, but like really like M's storyline too, like the like especially how it ends.
Yeah.
It's just like having already gone through, and seen it, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like that's where the movie ends. But
Yeah.
this time around going in and it's like, oh, this is this is so deep in your being.
Mhm.
And you like, yes, Mike messed with that universe, like whatever universe he's in, like messed with everybody in that house,
Mhm.
but M fully wrecks reality at the end. Like
Yeah.
in ways that I don't know. It's kind of like I said, like towards the end, like we get glimpses of what the other houses look like, and there are some where it's like, oh, people are arguing, or
Mhm.
oh, people are just kind of like passive towards each other. There's one where like there's two mics tied up next to each other. It's like, oh crap, like this is crazy.
Yeah.
Uh but again, the thing that really sells this is the relationships,
Mhm.
and you know and is the characters, and it's such a testament to both the writers and the actors for coming together to like craft this, one, because a lot of them didn't even know how the story was unfolding.
Yeah.
They didn't know how it ended until they saw it at the premiere.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, that's crazy. That's so wild to me that you just like, well, trust the process. Uh,
Yeah.
but then you like watching it in full and getting M's story, and realizing that like she has she has so much doubt and she has so much fear living inside of her that it's ruining her life. And she doesn't see it as that. She just sees it as being precautious, but it's blocking her path. It's blocking her relationship with her boyfriend.
Mhm.
It's kind of seeding into everybody else's lives and everybody else's view of her. It's allowing Lori to come in and, try and take all these things. So you get all these little glimpses. What what's crazy is at the end when she's there and she finds the universe where none of this happened. They still have
Mm-hmm.
the dinner party, but they've moved away from the table. And
Mm-hmm.
now they're all just hanging out in the living room, doing all this stuff like there, and specifically mentioning that this universe's M is has the career that our M
Oh
doesn't.
yes, yeah, yeah. So she got the dancing career, and
Yeah,
she's decided to go to Vietnam with Kevin.
with Kevin.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's like, so there's no doubt in this M's mind that this is exactly what she's supposed to be doing,
Mm-hmm.
and that was part of the conversation earlier. Beth said something along those lines, where it's like, hey, like, you have your life, nobody else can take that from you.
I really
And
like that line.
that's 100% what M tries to do at the end.
Yeah,
Like, she sees the perfect life, she sees this perfect version of herself living the perfect life, and she tries to take that.
yeah.
And I'm like, that's so scary to me. Like, that's so mind-boggling. I'm like, oh, like, it just gave me creeps, like, for the
It's
rest of the
like
night.
every time I've watched this movie, it's a cliche, but they say it's like, what if we're the dark versions of us?
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's always been my vibe. Like M is going to go wreck someone's reality and try and take over. But you know what? And that's how I felt this last summer when we watched it. But 2 nights ago when I watched it again, I was like, you know what? Go get it, girl. You do it.
What?
I don't know,
No.
dude. Like it's just I think
No.
there's two ways to come at it, because the way I had always seen it was that, like, she's still running. She keeps running. She's for whatever reason she's not making that choice.
Hmm.
It's her pride or whatever gets in the way, and that's what gets her. She doesn't lose it. She basically walks away from that the stage and what turns out to be a career defining moment.
Hmm.
So she doesn't even get the chance. She just turns it away because she felt like that was hers. She's not going to be an understudy for it.
Hmm.
So that's the pride. So the pride is what got in her way. And then with Kevin, it just feels like, for whatever reason, she's not saying yes. She's nervous. She's afraid to commit. Either, I'm not sure if it's to commit to him, but she's committing a certain amount of time of her life. So
Hmm.
she'll have to quit her job or whatever. So it's just like kind of being afraid to take that leap for whatever reason. But I've always figured, like, at the end, it still feels like not much has changed. And I'm talking about, like, the first 6 or 7 times I saw this, because yeah, she goes out house shopping to find her reality, but it's
Yeah.
more like, okay, it's the safe bet. That's what it is. If I want to sum up
Mm.
everything I'm trying to say, it's a safe bet. You know,
Okay.
she knows she's losing her safety net if she gives everything up to go to Vietnam with Kevin. So at the end, when all out chaos breaks out, what does she do? The safest thing possible. She goes through trying to find the perfect life, the
Mm.
one where she didn't make any of the mistakes.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I get that, and that's what's scary. So it's not really like she came out of this enlightened or anything. It's like, no, she's just repeating the same behavior.
Oh,
She's
for
trying
sure,
to
for
find that
sure.
safety.
Yeah.
However, this last time I watched it, I was kind of wondering, I'm like, well, maybe this is her trying to get a grasp of her own reality, because, like we're saying, this is all about, it's such uh, so much of this movie revolves around the plot, but the
Hmm.
core of it is the characters. And
Hmm.
when you look at the character story, it's really about her, and by proxy, her and Kevin, and by proxy, her, Kevin, and Lori. And at the end, it's like they're really the only ones who are from their original house. And she's already, at this point, she's out. Man, it's such a, I love the scene where she runs into alternate Kevin.
Hmm.
And he seems like such a nice guy.
Hmm.
And then she comes back and hers is just like, nah, you know? I
Yeah.
was like, either, for whatever reason, for his reasons or because of her, whatever, it's just not there. So I don't know. Something about this last watch just kind of made me go like, yeah, you deserve better than him. Go. Go find your life.
Okay.
But then
Okay.
she completely twisted it and she's like, no, I'm gonna kill someone for this. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, okay, fine, sure. Like we can agree, we can both agree that, like, yes, like, and this is sort of her thing too, of like, I think she got scared, and again, like, allowed just fear to just kind of block, uh uh to just hold her up, to like roadblock her. Um and so I guess in a way, when she finds this perfect, world, this perfect view, it's like, yeah, this is her version of, okay, this is the life I deserve. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna go for it.
Right.
It's such a weird, twisted version of what you should really be doing, but that's the movie. Like, and this is the character. This is what she's been pushed through. Just look at all
Yeah.
the horrible stuff she's had to endure this whole night. But my thing is that if you kill the perfect version of yourself, no matter how much you try and ingratiate yourself into their life, it's never going to be your life,
You're still the same
because
person. You're still
exactly,
you.
you
Yeah.
are still you, and you bring all of your baggage,
Yeah.
all of your
Yeah.
BS. She overhears that she's got the dance career is taking off, and she's gonna go to Vietnam with Kevin. There's absolutely nothing to say that the next morning, if she had fully pulled it off, that this version of M, our version of M, would have still committed to go to Vietnam. you
That
know
yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, I feel like something like that she probably would do because
yeah.
that's her. That's why she's there. She's making the choice. And
Hmm.
again it goes to the safety thing. It's less about, at least with this specific house, it's less about I'm trying to find that perfect world and it's more about I'm trying to fix my past mistakes,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Um yeah, I don't know, man. I've thought about that a lot. Like what if I stayed in New York, finished film school,
Mm-hmm.
what would that Matt look like? Or what if I had stayed in LA, tried to keep acting, what would that Matt look like?
Yeah.
From where I'm at now, and I think like most people in their life, they can always look at things with like the grass is greener on the other side, you know? I could definitely see all the positive things that could have happened in my life if I had made one of those choices. But I can't even predict like the bad things that could have happened,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah.
And that kind of gets me thinking as well, like, is this the happiest life? I don't know. Like where does M end up? Like,
Hmm.
what if it's completely twisted? What if let me see, I'm trying to think. More theories.
Oh
She ends up in
gosh.
this perfect world. Why is this world perfect, Sam? Why is this life perfect? Because 6 months before, half of America gets nuked. So these friends at the dinner party are just so happy to be alive and to be with each other. This
Oh
world
gosh.
seems perfect. But in reality, she shows up and she's like, oh, wow, all my family's dead. You know? Did,
Yeah.
did you think about that, M? I don't think
Right.
so.
Right. Did you think about the entire full nuances of how different the universe would be, by
Hmm.
just looking through somebody's window?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
you didn't, and that's on you.
What if they're all communists? What if that's the communist world? You know, like who
Sign me
knows?
up.
It could
Sign me up.
it could be anything. Like
Um,
they looked
uh,
happy with it, so
yeah, everything seems great. That's why nobody was fighting, everything's great.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Wow.
there's this interesting thing. I guess this is kind of like touching on two topics because this is essentially like a multiverse story.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Because what we think initially is just like, oh, like an alternate universe, then ends up opening its doors to like, no, there are different universes out there, and
Right.
like going through and all. um I kind of wish there had been, and I don't know how you can do it, and I guess like this wasn't really like the story. um but it always feels like a missed opportunity when you have a story about different realities and different stuff, but everything just kind of the same with just like
Mm.
slight minor differences.
Hmm.
uh Recently rewatched The One starring Jet Li.
Yeah.
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 And I completely forgot. Because that is also a multiverse story,
Yeah, yeah, big time.
where a psychopathic Jet Li is universe hopping, killing all of the different versions of himself in other universes so that he could become all powerful.
Yeah.
Um, I fully forgot that the movie opens up with uh like a prisoner exchange, like these cops are all trying to get a prisoner out of their cell to take him
Hmm.
somewhere else. uh but as the cops are getting ready, they're watching it's not an inaugural address, but it's like like a presidential address that just ended,
Yeah.
and it's president, I think it's Kerry, it's John Kerry. It's President John Kerry
Yeah.
has, is addressing, all this stuff, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And I was like, wait a second. Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
interesting. And then, we get the whole action set piece. We get blah, 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 whatever. When we get to where our real protagonist is, also Jet Li, good Jet
Hmm.
Li. uh, it's mirrored. It's the exact same setup. The cops are all doing a prisoner exchange. They're all getting ready. And in their break room, they're watching George Bush give a presidential address.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Like, cool. But that's the only hint that we get that the universes are different.
Yeah, there's like
You
I
know?
remember the very last world they go to at the end of that movie,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like it just seemed everything was like more electric if I remember, like the cars were kind of funky and
Kind
stuff.
of.
Um,
There's like an emphasis on like a funky little car, and
so it was yeah, it was
everything's
all very
super sunny.
subtle. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But like again, like I think like that wasn't that movie's goal, right? To
right.
like, oh,
Yeah.
differentiate how crazy this is, and
Yeah.
especially when like the good Jet Li comes from our world essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, like I kind of wish there was a little more like hints of just
Mm.
how different these other places are, you know?
Yeah, it would have been tough in this one because it's people, you know? Like it's just
Yeah.
like and we never really get to meet any of them. Really. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Outside of like, oh, like we saw ourselves from across the street,
Hmm.
or I had a
Well,
random bump in with
I mean,
a
yeah,
Kevin.
I gotta
But
take that
yeah,
back
yeah,
because
we really,
honestly, we meet alternates of everyone.
oh, but
Uh,
we kind of just don't know
we
it.
don't know it at the
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's we find out when M finds out,
Hmm.
and yeah, like I don't know that I would like to see that too, but I don't know how they would have done it. I don't know how they would have pulled it off. You know?
Yeah. And yeah, I guess that could be also be a thing like that's too distracting, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, it was like the way they did it was really well done. Like again, I love the scene where she's talking to Kevin outside, and there's no dialogue. They both realized they're talking to someone, a different version of their partner, and like
Hmm.
there's no dialogue. All the dialogue stops, and they just like slowly back away. I'm like, it's
Hmm.
such a creepy moment. It's so good, but then it's just equally as good when she hears what's their name, Beth and I don't remember the
Lee.
Beth and Lee in the kitchen, and they mention, "Oh, where'd you get this glass? Oh, I got it on sale, whatever."
Mm-hmm.
Because they literally had that conversation in the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So when they say that, what seems like just a line, out of earshot, it's a big twist, and that's what kicks it off for M. M realizes it, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh no, and then
Yeah.
again with
And
with Hugh's phone, all of a sudden he's on his phone, not broken. So
I
it's
was
like
just gonna mention that. Yeah.
all those little clues are there, and it's so well done. Also, this is a movie you have to pay attention. You
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to. I can't. We've talked about this, but listeners, I've watched so many movies with friends and they're texting or they're emailing. Now, I try not to judge people, but I'm judging people when we watch movies. These people spend so much money on these movies. This shot is in this movie because it cost a lot of money. Why is it there? There's
Mm-hmm.
got to be a reason, at least for the
Mm-hmm.
good movies, there is.
Mm-hmm.
So stuff like that. Like if you're texting and you don't see Kevin on his phone, huge twist you don't get. And this is a movie where like you can't really afford to miss any of the twist
Yeah.
because then you'll
Yeah.
just be it's a mystery and you're not supposed to know what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no way you're going to figure it out if you're not paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, because otherwise, then you miss when like, oh, somebody went off, and then they come back,
yeah.
but they have a different, like, they have a different uh sense of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they think they've only been gone like, or they think they've been gone like 45 minutes, and somebody says, no, you've been gone like 5 minutes. Like it's fine. It's like, or they start to act like a little bit more aggressive. They immediately go to reach for a bottle, which we
Yeah.
already established that character doesn't drink. Or in the case of Hugh, Hugh got hurt and he
Yeah.
has a band-aid on his head for most of the movie. You're gonna miss it completely when Hugh shows up again and he has a completely different band-aid.
Yeah. It's all
And
those
then
details. All those details
yeah,
are there.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
And
yeah,
that's something that's really cool about this because so many people love this movie and it's already been out for like over I guess yeah, a decade now.
yeah.
There's so many videos and theories online, but there's also people making charts and graphing it out and like it legitimately makes sense. You can follow M's story. You can see where the first version of the character we meet drops off and we don't see them anymore. We see
Mhm.
alternate versions after that. And like it all makes sense. It would be different if it was like they were making it up as they go or it's like, well, there's this plot hole. It's a great movie, but there's this plot hole. You kind of have to get it's like no, like it's sound, man. Like the things that happen and the way M figures it out, it all
Mhm.
makes sense. And that's why I'm just kind of astonished. Like, how the heck did they make this movie? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I think James Ward Burkett filmed some stuff and he walked out into the dark until he found a house where they had already finished making it. Because I have
Beat
no idea how you
beat
figure it out.
himself up and then took that
He
movie.
took his own life, took him out of the equation. He's like, and he took credit for the movie. Because I don't know
Wow.
how you figured this out while directing improvising actors. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know, man.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's crazy. Well, yeah, and I don't know if you've seen it yet because I borrowed your DVD or your Blu-ray, but I
Please,
watched
Sam,
the
Blu-ray.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not a Twitter film bro, but I do like cinema enough.
Oh God.
I'll get the Blu-ray.
Just I'm just waiting for the 4K restoration, I can't watch it any other
Oh
way.
no.
Um no, yeah, because I saw the little behind the scenes that they had, and
Mm-hmm.
apparently they shot this at Burkett's house
Mm-hmm.
uh in like between like December and January.
Mm-hmm.
Uh uh because Burkett's wife was pregnant and he was like, "Oh, well, like we'll just wait until after my wife has the baby." And the producer was like, that's not gonna happen. You're not gonna have time. Like we have to
Yeah.
do this now.
Yeah.
Uh so yeah, then they got to go ahead and like yeah, so they filmed it all at his house and yeah, they just all kind of got there, prepped, and then would film, for most of the evening, most of the night. I think they said it was like 5 weeks.
No, it was like 5 nights.
Oh, it was just five
Yeah.
nights.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
And then I think
Wow.
on the
That's
commentary,
even
I
crazier.
think they mentioned that there are some reshoots, but they didn't use most of the reshoots anyway
Mm.
because the original footage just worked. And it's like, no, it was a 5 night thing. Um, but yeah, like there's a I recommend if you love this movie, go buy the Blu-ray because it's awesome. There's two excellent director commentaries on it. Good behind the scenes. But online, there's this I forgot what it's called, but it's like a kind of behind the scenes thing. I think it's just an hour where the director kind of explains things a little bit. He does a little behind the scenes into it, but then there's like a 45-minute conversation between him and Patton Oswalt, who loves this movie.
Ooh.
And it's just really fascinating. And it's on Vimeo. I think if you look up James Ward Burkett on YouTube, you'll find his YouTube page. And
Mhm.
like, he'll have a trailer for the documentary. And
Oh,
then that'll
wow.
take you to Vimeo. Because I had to rent it. And this was for the last time we watched it. And yeah, it was pretty cool. It was really rad.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just this little magical gem of a movie, dude. It's
Mhm.
crazy. I did want to talk about kind of going back to what Mickey was texting me, like, this isn't how people talk and blah, blah, blah. I was like, they're improvising, Mickey. This is exactly how people talk, just not how they do it in the movies.
Mhm.
But one of his complaints was like, they're just spouting exposition, blah blah blah, and it's something that always kind of stuck with me. And like this one of these last times watching, I'm like, wait a second, hang on though, what is exposition? Exposition is information you need for the story
Mhm.
that has taken place before the story.
Mhm.
We don't need any of that with this film though.
Mhm.
And like, and my brain kind of exploded. I'm like, well, wait a second. Like, all the info that M's giving that she read about this comment, we don't need that. The
Mhm.
whole thing with the book was like the biggest kind of revelation for me because Hugh gets the book and then they start talking about Schrodinger's cat and all this stuff and coherence and
I'm sorry, decoherence.
decoherence. We'll talk about that in a second. Decoherence. And we don't need it because it doesn't, not that it doesn't lead anywhere, it just doesn't lead anywhere good.
Mhm.
And I'm like, hang on a second, this is the opposite of exposition. This is all red herrings
Mhm.
because those stories and that book just start making people paranoid and nervous.
That's what Burkett said in the behind the scenes is that every piece of information they get out of that book, it doesn't help them explain their situation. All it does is set up the trap. Set up
Yeah,
the trap
yeah,
that somebody's gonna have to go to the other house and beat up so and so, or they're gonna have to
yeah.
threaten, themselves. It's like that book does it's exactly like you said, that book doesn't lead them anywhere good.
So you see, they weren't just spouting exposition, they were laying down the trap, and we all fell in it.
Whoa.
That is cinema. I'm sorry. I love this movie. We kind of joked about it last time, but like after this watch, I'm like, you know what? Screw it, man. Like I'm certain this is in my top 20 films. Like
Wow.
it's up there, dude. Like
Wow. Yeah.
one, just because the amount of times I've watched it, that's kind of a good indicator, you
Hmm.
know. Um, but even then, like I have movies that I absolutely love more than this one that I haven't watched 8 times. So it's kind of a
Hey, that's
testament that I
true.
keep coming back and I'm just like, Oh man, I dig this. It's it's kind of like dark, dude. I'm like, as dark
Yeah,
as that show is, I miss it. I kind of just want to put it on in the background,
dude. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
If I hadn't started rewatching The Expanse, and if I still had Netflix, I would 100% be watching Dark again.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Although to be fair, Matt, you also have watched like Hardcore Henry like 10 times.
Hardcore Henry's probably on my top 20. Uh,
Jeez, get out,
I
get
do.
out.
I
Oh
love
my
that movie.
God.
Um, Not as much as Coherence though. I really I think Coherence beats out Hardcore Henry.
I,
But they're two completely different films, you know?
yeah, yeah.
One really makes you use your brain, and the other one's just like, hey, turn it off, man. Just turn it off.
You just go for the ride, baby bear.
Yeah. Oh
Whoa.
man.
Jeez.
Um, yeah, yeah.
Crazy.
So, um, I did want to bring something up that I think we talked about on our previous episode that will never air now.
Uh-huh.
The majority of the cast is white.
Yeah.
So I think things would have gone down a lot differently if you had more people of color there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Dude, I was
First
thinking the
off,
exact same thing.
first off, I ain't leaving the damn house, okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know what goes on out there normally when we have power.
Yeah.
No, man, I was thinking, I was like, okay, so listeners, last week we had an episode of Lost Legacies where we brought our dad on. And usually when we bring our dad on, we end up just asking him random questions we find from the internet, or like we'll take like advice columns and ask dad for advice, stuff like that. Just
Mm.
whatever, just keep him on his toes. Well, Sam brought in a question last week. It may sound not relevant, but I guarantee you it is.
Is it?
His question was,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
would you rather fight a giant version of you or 12 smaller versions of you? I think at the end of the day, we all agreed we'll fight the multiple little versions of us. Well,
No, I think
well,
no,
that's what
you
you said because you didn't want to fight the big one.
yeah.
I think it would be easier to outsmart the big one, but this is where we get back into coherence. My final answer was I wouldn't fight them. This is what I would do. I would go to the other 12 mats and be like, guys, I know we're all almost the same person, so let's just be chill about this. Let's make some brisket tacos, and I'm gonna run you guys a D&D game
Wow.
because I know how hard it is for me to get into a D&D game. Everyone wants me to run one, but no one asks me to play. So I'm like, for you guys, I will run you a D&D game.
Wow.
And there you
Yeah.
go. And you know what? We'd probably play all night and forget about the comet, and we'd all wake up in the same universe the next morning.
Oh,
Oh,
dang.
God! 12 mats.
12 Hey, that's a sitcom right there.
Yeah, there you go. There you
12
go.
mats.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that's how it would have gone down with me.
Okay.
One big
Okay.
D&D game.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really thinking about that a lot. One of the notes I had originally from our cursed episode was we'd be screwed because we have dice. And our like that becomes like a huge part of the movie where they're like, oh, like, well, we have to do something random. It's like, well, what if we just like do number, like we'll just put random numbers and think, well, how are we gonna do that? Let's roll dice.
Yeah.
We would be screwed because we have so many dice from D&D. It wouldn't be random for us.
Well, yeah. I see what you're saying, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it doesn't really matter what they roll. Like it's an identifier,
I mean, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
But I'm just saying it's the one time D&D would have screwed us over.
Kind of. Yeah, yeah. Unless you did it like my way and we just play a giant game. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
But I really liked that. I thought that was such a unique um mystery to have in this film with the box and everything that's in the box. And I thought it was really cool that like we go most of the movie. It's not till like the last 20 or 25 minutes where like we actually start getting the answers. Like, oh, we made the box, like the other us, you know? So it's like, oh, okay, it wasn't this kind of nefarious, creepy thing. Like, we're literally trying to find our way home or to like establish our house.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're the ones who put the photos, who wrote the numbers, rolled the dice, all that stuff. I'm like, oh, like this is really cool. It really feels like an escape room type of moment, you know, where
Yeah.
like you have 60 seconds left on the clock and you actually start believing you're gonna get out. That's what that whole scene feels like.
Yeah.
And then it just goes all to hell. Man. Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Things start getting coherent. I think that was our joke after like that first time we watched it years ago. We're like, man, talk about incoherent. But in reality, so what coherence is, I think the way we kind of think of coherence and decoherence is like coherence means something is making sense. It's coherent.
Mhm.
But in the case of this movie and the science behind it, the whole concept is that they don't want to get left at the wrong house at the end of the night. They want to get back home. Coherence is the bringing together of things.
Mhm.
So that's what they don't want. That
Yeah.
might be what M gets. It really seems like there's two M's in that final world. That's
Yeah.
coherence. So what they're really fighting for the whole movie is decoherence, trying to separate themselves from their other versions of themselves.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a good title. It's not.
Mhm.
It's never really stated, which is unfortunate. But
Mhm.
that's essentially what it means in that context. Like, okay, so coherence is what you don't want in this film. Like, okay, damn,
Dang.
yeah, man. Well, do you got any other thoughts on this, man? Like, I feel like we could just keep going in circles and talking about this forever.
um no, I think that's it.
Yeah, man. Wild ride. I absolutely loved it. I'm pretty sure they're making a sequel or they're doing another one in this universe.
Hmm.
There was an article I want to say back in August, right after we filmed the cursed episode, and it
Oh yeah,
mentioned
yeah.
that they were working on a sequel or sequel of sorts.
Mhm.
What would you want to see? What would a Coherence 2 look like for you?
Huh. I guess just yeah, I guess kind of like what I already mentioned, like seeing just like well, how different are these other worlds, you know, or how different are these other versions of ourselves? Because that's
Right.
kind of the thing that like we really don't get a whole lot of is just how different are these people? Like it really does feel like we've got the same group of friends. We
Yeah.
got the same, attire, and we've got the same sort of like dynamics. It's
Hmm.
just the subtle differences, which, is a testament to the filmmakers and to the actors and how they made it. It's like this is what they had. It's
Hmm.
no budget. Um, but I don't know. I would like to see that. I would like to see just like, hey, like, what if maybe something slightly more akin to um the Community episode where they roll the Yahtzee die and
Oh, so you
every
actually see like the different versions happening.
yeah, and
Yeah.
you see the different versions happening and you see like, well, hey, wait a second. What if there's what if there's a universe where like one of us isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Like they still all got together. It's still the same group of friends, but one person's missing, you know?
Yeah, I'm just thinking
Or
of Community,
yeah.
and because they get the pizza delivered, I'm like, what if that delivery guy is literally delivering the pizza into different realities? He's like, man, it's a really dark night tonight. He doesn't realize he keeps giving the same pizza because every time he goes through the dark point, it just like
Mhm.
respawns in his bag. So He's like, man,
Infinite pizza.
infinite pizzas, man. Where does he end up? Oh
Where did
no.
you come from and where did you
Oh
go?
no. I do like that. I would like to see, uh, especially because like, okay, we've already been in this world. We have one movie in this world. It kind of sets up everything that's happening. You can take it a little further now. You know,
Mhm.
you can get more into that. Like actually, like show us different houses or different perspectives. Like I don't know, that would be cool. At the same time, I was also thinking like I would love to just see a straight up sequel. Like what happens to M? Like,
Mm.
are there two of them in this world? And I think that would be pretty creepy because that really goes back to that first story she tells about the lady who kills her husband. She's like,
Mm.
no, 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 this man in my house can't be my cousin, can't be my husband. I killed him last night. And that's some real like that's like some Stephen King. What's that show? It's a story they just did the show of Jason Bateman with the doppelgangers.
Oh, the outsider.
Outsider, very much like that. You know, it's just like
Hmm.
what is real, what isn't. I think you could do something really cool with that.
Yeah.
You know, so either way, man, like I'm just fascinated with this concept, and like on one hand, you don't want them to explore it further because like it's just so mysterious, but at the same time, you're kind of like,
Yeah.
can we go deeper without like spoiling it? You know, just make it richer. Like I don't know. Like either way, I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah. I am too.
Man, that's so yeah, that's awesome. Well, last thing I want to shout out because I
Hmm.
don't want to stop talking about this movie. Last thing I want to shout out is
Uh,
the music. Um, I should have looked this up already. The score of this movie was so good, and I feel like a lot of it kind of gets lost because it's such. There's a lot of quiet moments in the movie where you don't hear
mhm.
much score, or there's a lot of loud moments where you don't hear it. But I have no idea how to pronounce this name. The composer is Kristen Oren Druid. Very
If we mispronounce your name, we
I
apologize.
apologize. Yes, but so but it did very I don't know, Scandinavian
Hmm.
ish from that area. I'm really just falling in love with a lot of music like from Norway, and like one of my favorite artists is Aurora and Vordruna, and there's a lot of instruments that they use that reminded me of this. You know,
Mm,
just these
mm.
kind of like haunting strings.
Yeah.
Not haunting in like in a creepy way, but like in a soul stirring way. Like that scene where M is walking through into the different houses, the music is so good, and then when she looks up at the comet and like the music just changes, I'm like, oh my god, it's just so emotional. You
Hmm.
know, I'm I think I don't have a musical bone in my body, and because of that, like I just absorb music emotionally so much more
Hmm.
because it could be a horrible film, but if I love the score, like I'm gonna love your movie. So in this case, like it gets both. You know, I love the
Yeah.
film, I love the score. You can listen to the whole soundtrack on Spotify right now. I have it saved to a playlist.
Hey, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so yeah, that's it for Coherence, directed by James Ward Burkett, 2013. If you didn't watch it, you know what? You could still go watch it.
Yeah.
Even as
Yeah.
much spoilers as we talked about, it's still going to be a slap in the face when you watch it. You know, like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so well done.
Some things are gonna make more sense to you, and
Yeah,
other things just won't, and that's fine.
yeah. So, and look for the director and the writer, I this isn't something I ever would have done. Like as a storyteller, I don't really. There's just nothing about it where I'm like, I want to give control to my actors. As an actor, I don't know if I would feel comfortable with that. Like, like I understand, concept of improv and stuff, but I'm like, that's not a leap I would have taken. Like, so I'm really glad that someone else did it and that it worked so well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man, it's so fun, such a wild ride, such a cool time, and I love sci-fi, and this is what would you call it? Like, not magical realism, but like sci-fi realism, like
I mean, yeah, this is just kind of grounded, you know.
grounded sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, try looking that up on Letterboxd. Well, listeners, watchers, thank you for joining us for week one of our little Halloween discussions.
Spooky tober, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, this is it feels like an autumn film. It's very orange, and I love the glow on of the candles in the set or in the living room and stuff.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah, I guess I could see that.
yeah, it really fit in, this time slot perfectly. So,
Yeah.
um, Sam,
Hmm.
do you want to inform everyone what are we watching and what are we talking about next week?
I mean, if I don't, then how are they gonna know to come back next week? You know?
They gotta know what to watch.
They gotta know what to watch. Yeah, exactly. Because then it's the exact same thing. Like, oh, now we gotta pause and go watch the movie, come back.
Exactly.
That's too much time.
Yeah.
Too many things can happen by then. So, viewers, listeners, next week I'm going to take my brother by the hands and I'm going to gently walk with him into a little town called Salem's Lot. That's right. We are going to be watching not the Toby Hooper TV miniseries from the 70s. We are not even going to be watching the 2000s miniseries starring Rob Lowe. We are watching the brand new remake that is premiering on Max. For us, it's tomorrow. So by the time you're listening to this, it will have already premiered.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't watched it, you've got time to go watch it. And if you have watched it, well, now you have time to go rewatch it in preparation of us talking about it. Because I really fell in love with this story. I read the book. I think I read the book earlier this year, actually, and I got so excited about it. Oh wait, no. I read the book last year, and I really loved it, and I got so excited about the new movie that I reread it in about a week.
Hmm.
So, and that's big for me. That's big. I'm a pretty slow reader, so the fact that I finished a whole book in a week, that was great. Now I know Matt doesn't like too scary movies.
Hey,
he
we'll
doesn't
see.
like his movies too scary. So, but it's vampires, and these vampires,
Well,
they
you
can
see,
only be
I
so
had no
scary,
idea it was vampires. So the less you say, the better.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I have absolutely zero experience with Salem's Lot. I literally found out it's vampires. Um,
Oh, dang it! I
so
didn't know that. Well,
yeah,
crap.
all I know is like the guy from Thunderbolts is in it, right? The new guy, isn't he like the main guy?
Oh,
Bob.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bill Pullman's son.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. He also played Bob in Top Gun Maverick, which I thought was
Wow.
funny.
That is pretty
Um,
funny.
yeah. So I don't know. We'll see how this is gonna go. Like I literally have no feelings for Salem's Lot because I know nothing. So it's kind of exciting. It
Mm.
would be different if it was something like I already knew of and I was terrified of. I'm like, oh no,
Hmm.
I'm not.
Hmm.
This is gonna suck. So this is kind of exciting. Just going in, just blind for the most part.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Again, sorry.
yeah. So, all right, we're gonna be doing Salem's Lot next week. Everyone, I I want to say like if you have any questions, reach out to us. But like we're not really going to be talking about this movie again. I guess if you do have any questions or comments, you can shoot us an email, lostlegacies@gmail.com. There's also a link at the bottom of this podcast that you could text us through.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
this is on YouTube, so leave us a comment and maybe, if you have questions, we'll try and answer it before we start talking about the next movie or something.
Hmm.
So let us know. As always, you can find me on Twitter at _ Matt Jimenez and on Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Real, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo.
Yeah, and let us know what you think about the visual format. We're just playing around with it right now. Sam's background is a poster for Coherence that we found online. Uh, I made a Halloween logo for Lost Legacies, but it's podcast, so it didn't fit the Zoom format. So I had to like get rid of the Lost Legacies logo and just use the bottom part of it.
Oh,
So,
wow.
oh well, yeah, uh, yeah, whatever. Yeah. So everyone, join us next week. Until next time, get
Get
lost.
lost.